evening elected mayor are, and the appointed vice mayor Menzo and other council members. And good evening, City Council attorney and all the officers and all the police officers and city and all the residents of City of Westminster. The reason I call you elected because from 6 months from now, people, if they voted for Measure C pass, then City of Westminster will no longer have elected. All of you will have rotated or selected within a group to be running as a mayor. And that is shameful for our city of Westminster. We downgrade our city. Most of the big cities, most of the efficient cities, they have a mayor who is elected by the whole city, not by a small area. And therefore, it is wise for you to vote no on Measure C, because I saw it in the booklet. Measure C, they said that they will have rotated or appointed. Therefore, our city will have, next time when you met a mayor, you will say, good evening, appointed or rotated or anything, but not elected. That's shame for our city. We are going downward instead of going upward to be a grade A, and now we are in grade C. C, that means very bad. Great for the city of Westminster. And Measure C, they always say that they will stop corruption, but actually they are the one who create corruption because they just colluded. By 3 people collude together, they can vote their own mayor. And when something wrong with our city, they blame not they shift the blame to each other. And our city will not know who is responsible. Therefore, Measure C, though it is proposed by Miss Terry Rains. Sometimes it creates terrible brains to our people. Or Terry Wu, and or Nguyê fam, they all colluded with the group of 3. That is the group of 3 who is manipulate our city for their own purpose. That is group interest, for their own interest group. That is bad for our city. That's why I keep coming here to this podium to ask for you transparency. And you finish, you work for your fiduciary duties and also for efficiency for our city. You should not work for your own group, your own agenda, or your own interest. I know many business people, they get permission to work, and then later on it was cancelled by a group of 3 or some of the commissioner in the planning commission. Because if you keep doing that, City of Westminster will be sued by business person. And in the past, City of Westminster has to pay a lot of damage to, because you violate the laws of City of Westminster. I came here to bring up the issue of the City of Westminster, and I hope all of you have to work together as a group, not as a group together of 5, not as a gangster of 3. Therefore, it is not good to operate in that way. Thank you for listening to my concern. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joe Dominguez. My request is simple. I would like my words translated into Vietnamese. In consideration of inclusion for all that listen to our comments, as I felt very included when Councilmember Ho translated in English for me as she spoke to her constituents. Is that possible this evening?
The attorney.
If this is an item on the agenda, I realize, so we're gonna have a discussion later. But if you read that staff report, it explains the language in the Brown Act specifically states that the purpose is to communicate, for non-English speakers, to communicate to the city council. So for that reason, the council could allow that, but that's discretionary. But from the Brown Act standpoint, we're not required to translate to another language. The purpose is for the translator to speak in English. Speak in English.
Well, I'm asking for respect, not a requirement, so it would be up to those seated here this evening if they choose to allow it. I'd be happy to shorten my speech to 2.5 minutes. I'm perfectly capable.
I'm okay if the rest of the council is.
Yeah, so.
I'm okay with her request.
Yeah, it's up to the council.
Thank you. I'll be kind enough to pause. I'm willing to pause each paragraph for you.
Yeah, I want to remind the council that we're going to set a precedent. If we allow today, then we have to allow for every city council meeting. Go ahead.
But, and before she goes, to be clear, we're talking about a total of 5 minutes, correct?
Correct,
Okay, total, go ahead.
but, Councilmember Joe brought up to the court, if we allow for the speaker to speak, English and translate to Vietnamese today, in the future we have to allow that.
Correct. We're not required to allow it, the council is
Oh, we're not.
choosing to allow that.
And so does that mean we have to allow that all the time?
Every time, yeah, because
So I would say we allow it today because we don't have a policy set. But I believe we should, set our policy, but for today, we're gonna make this exemption. And then let's include that into our policy or agenda so we can discuss and update our policy. So at that time, we may decide to go ahead and continue that, add that into our policy so we can extend that courtesy to everyone, or we would, whatever you decide at that time, okay? So, but for tonight, it's not in our policy to not allow her. So we'll just we'll allow her tonight.
5 minutes total, and then the translator will translate that into Vietnamese.
Thank you, council members. Tonight is the time for a history lesson, a lesson that the council needs to hear from the citizens of Westminster.
Hôm nay là một cái đêm về học lịch sử và các vị thành viên của Hội đồng nhân thành phố cần phải nghe.
I am the descendants of immigrants who came here seeking a better life through a democracy in which the right to vote was paramount to liberty and happiness.
Tôi là một cái người hậu thế của những cái người di dân, và di dân đến đây để tìm tự do dân chủ. Và trong cái việc tự do dân chủ đó thì cái quyền đi bỏ phiếu là một việc rất là quan trọng.
My grandmothers were both born to and lived in the United States where the right to vote was denied by their gender.
Còn lại của tôi đó và những cái người đã sinh ra ở đây, tuy nhiên đó bà ta lại cũng có được cấp đi bỏ phiếu tại vì cái giới tính của bà ta.
That all changed with the 19th Amendment. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex.
Và cái việc đó đã được thay đổi bởi tu chính án thứ 19, nói là những cái người sinh ra ở Mỹ hay trong những cái thuộc địa của Mỹ cái quyền lợi của họ sẽ không có bị giới hạn bởi chuyện ban như là liên quan về những đề mà đi bầu về những đề giới tính.
The simplicity of this statement took decades to ratify. My grandmothers, my mother, my father all made voting the center of our worlds. It was a rite of passage. A day we went to the polls was as a family.
Và cái đấu tranh để giành cái quyền lợi cho những người không phải là tính nào người đi bầu rồi đã mất rất là lâu và giành được, và cái gia đình chúng tôi bắt đầu trở lại trung tâm đạt trọng tâm cái việc đi bộ.
But what does all this have to do with our city council and the public comments this evening?
Còn cái này nó có liên quan gì tới hội đồng nhân thành phố đây cũng như là những cái lời nói của chúng tôi này?
Tonight I see that again there is not an agenda item to put a measure on the ballot of our voters to save our city and pass the sales tax measure. Again, I am here to confront the reality forced upon us by the inactive council that insists on denying our citizens the right to vote on an issue that is ours to decide, but instead they act as gatekeepers to the vote.
Hôm nay tôi cũng có thấy trên nghị trình có một cái bài nói về việc để cho cư dân bỏ phiếu về vấn đề mà thuế sau này. Đáng lẽ đó là cái việc mà cư dân nên bỏ nhà và đồng nhân thành phố đây nên là những cái người mà mở cửa dẫn đường để cho những người cư dân có thể bỏ phiếu về cái việc đó. Tuy nhiên thay vì làm cái việc đó thì quý vị là cái người đứng canh cửa không cho người ta làm cái việc như vậy.
Gatekeepers to the vote sound familiar?
Cái việc mà đứng để canh cửa đóng cửa không cho người ta bỏ phiếu đó, nghe có quen quá phải không?
I am here to inform and educate our citizens to stand up and demand that this council stop denying and suppressing our right to vote.
Thì đó là hôm nay tôi đến đây đó là để lên tiếng để yêu cầu đòi hỏi hội đồng nhân dân thành phố để cho cư dân của thành phố có cơ hội để đi bỏ phiếu.
We face imminent collapse without the tax measure. We will be bankrupt as a city by 2025.
Nếu mà không có cái việc bỏ phiếu để chấp thuận cái thuế này đó thì đến năm 2025 thành phố này nó sẽ sụp đổ về phương diện tài chính.
That means no city service, no police department.
Thì như vậy là không còn có những cái dịch vụ của thành phố cung cấp nữa.
Why bother?
Có sự cảnh sát nữa.
Without these services,
Đó. Những cái dịch vụ này đó, những cái dịch vụ mà thành phố cung cấp này nó lại ra mình phải lo.
we will cease to be a city.
Thì như vậy là thành phố này sẽ không còn hiệu vụ.
We will simply be folded into a larger unincorporated area with the closest station of the Orange County Sheriff being yBolsa.
Thì như vậy đó mình sẽ không còn là thành phố nữa, mình sẽ bị sát nhập vô.
An average response
Cái sở cảnh sát cần biết đó là ở trong Bình Nam.
with an average response time of 40 minutes.
Và cái thời gian mà cảnh sát đến đáp ứng những cứu gọi của cảnh sát có một ngày 45 phút.
Let that sink in while you consider what the city council of vote gatekeepers is withholding.
Hãy cân nhắc cái việc đó đi. Họ sẽ gọi là những thành phố đây là họ là những người mà đi cản trở cái việc đưa cái vấn đề tới đâu ra để cư dân đây có được căn hộ.
Speak up, have your voice heard. Voting is at the heart of democracy.
Quý vị hãy lên tiếng để cho người ta nghe được cái tiếng nói của quý vị. Đó là cái cánh yếu của nền dân chủ. Cảm ơn. Thank you.
Conrad Gomez?
City Council, my name is Conrad Gomez, and I'm on the Quang Tri Committee, and also president of Vietnam Veterans America at 56 out of Long Beach. And I'd just like to review a couple of things of the Brown Act that I'm confused about. And first of all, I had the application, we were supposed to fill out the application, and then sign the code of ethics, and a copy of the utility bills, and the driver's license. And that was due in September 22, 2021. That was completed. I received an email on September 29th. Congratulations, you are receiving this email because you have been appointed to the Palm Tree Monument Committee, and contacting you to inform you about a couple of things that you need to be completed by the first committee meeting. That was October 24th, 2021. That was sworn in. So as it tells you right here, it says swearing in process, ethics training. Ethics training is how to take the AB 1234 ethics training. You have to take them. You are required to complete 2 hours of ethics training in general ethics principles and state laws every 2 years. Also, please make sure that you give yourself a minimum of 2 hours to complete the training. If your completion time reflected on your certificate is under 2 hours, your training will not be considered completed. Well, out of the 13 members of that committee, only 3 are valid. I have 5 here, and I was reviewing it, just to give you the times. I won't go through the names, but if you need the copy, I'll soon give you the copy. The first person did it in 3 hours and 57 minutes. Another person, I was in 3 hours and 59 minutes. Another person did it in 5 hours. This one, completed in 1 hour and 53 minutes. That means he has to retake the test. Okay, the next person, 1 hour and 55 minutes. That person has to take a test again. So in other words, out of the 13 members that you had on this committee, there's only 3 of us that did what the city required. Why is that? The city attorney on December 21st sent a letter to the committee, and it was read to the committee stating that there was Brown Act violations, and also that they needed to get this online course done that was supposed to have been done by October 24th. Obviously, they paid no attention to it. And to me, that shows complete disrespect to not only the city council, but to the citizens of the city of Westminster and the state of California. If you're gonna be on a committee and you're supposed to have ethics training, well then do it. It's an honor to be on a committee, I think. It's just like you do your duty. I know some of us don't wanna do it, but it's our responsibility. I can't understand how this was overlooked. You know, we have a city manager. Why was this, or what was the penalty for not doing it? Were you allowed to be on there or not? You know, and in the committee, I don't understand why there was 11 Vietnamese and 2 Americans, the 2 Vietnam veterans, and we had 11 Vietnamese. I just don't understand that. Why would you set us up for failure? And I've said that to you before. And this is one of the reasons. And I can give you a whole book. But anyway, if you're going to pass out these tests for us to do, then have everybody comply. Thank you.
Next speaker is Robert Harrison. Please come forward.
The Quandary Committee held their meeting Monday and voted. Some of the truths about the depiction display and the committee's failures in violating the Brown Act and no code of ethics are being presented here. Initially, we were proud to be a part of creating an historically accurate Quandary monument, especially being open to the general public and to honor the true heroes from the American side, the Vietnamese side. What a total failure. The City Council has been provided details of these failures, knows the truth, and ignores it. The monument is not historically accurate. The general public has been excluded entirely, and American involvement is left out. Evidence abounds from pictures, actual newsreels, historical research. There's no citadel wall with a pagoda on top of it behind soldiers raising a flag. Instead of a committee of 13, including alternates, this was a committee of 1 that the city staff bent over backwards and worked with exclusively, accommodating every step along the way. Evidence of Brown Act violations provided the city have been ignored. The Vietnamese patches have never been vetted. The rear hidden panel has never been presented, and it's not in the presentation you're going to receive. You only have 4 American and 14 Vietnamese patches on the ever-changing depiction for the front of the monument. The rest of the monument, Vietnam veteran patches, are regulated to a non-existent rear panel. The vote was 9-2, the 2 American Vietnam veterans. The militaristic narrative was voted on, also 9-2, as proposed is wrong for a public monument, not correct, and disorganizing, lacking key facts, America's involvement is missing. It is poorly written, names are wrong, soldier ranks are wrong, misspellings. Limited corrections are going to be made. However, I thought that there was going to be an intelligent oversight of the narrative, not just converting Vietnamese to English, but an intelligent oversight of the whole thing. No one has been addressing the size of the monument. It is massively too large to be placed in a public park. Larger than the Vietnam War Memorial at Freedom Park. The two parts of the proposed monument, which is not historically accurate, offer a makeshift homeless shelter where view of illicit activities will be hidden. Its tempting cartoon depiction will be a jungle gym for the youth to climb on and be a part of the soldiers and fall and get hurt. I prepared a detailed list of concerns with the depiction display, sent it in an email to the committee, the city council, met with committee members in my home and publicly, met with certain city officials, where from most, I was asked to compromise America. Can I compromise? This is a Vietnamese monument. Speaking with many committee members individually along the way, they were in agreement with some and were going to work with me, and then the door slammed shut. No further communications. I knew they talked with Kenny before their meeting and after our meeting. 2 Americans were added to the Vietnamese committee to lend credibility to the project, then excluded 100%. Did it start with Kimberly Ho's Brown Act violation of total involvement with the committee, emailing everybody on the committee, including Fat Louie, do not respond to Bob. There were many different military coalitions in the Vietnamese community. This coalition is made up of one committee. The Vietnamese community in Southern California, the military community that uses the Vietnamese library, the military community that runs prayer vigil on Sunday. They don't all get along. They don't all represent the city. City should not pay homage to only one coalition because it does not represent the entire Vietnamese community. And what about the majority non-Vietnamese citizens? Stupid is knowing the truth, seeing the truth, but still believing the lies. Please remove the American passage front and back and a token mention of American involvement. This is a Vietnamese only monument. Respect America.
The next speaker is Nguyê. Please come forward. Nguyê.
Mayor, City Council. My name is Brad Wade, and I'm a public works supervisor for the city of Westminster, as well as a member of the Westminster Municipal Employees Association for 25 years plus. I oversee the parks, streets, trees, graffiti, median maintenance, and numerous contractors that keep the city clean and respectful. The limited staff that work for me are good at what they do. Their professionalism, their knowledge, their work ethic, their attitude, and their ability to interact with the residents in a caring way. The reason why I say limited is the fact that we hire qualified employees. However, they resign and take jobs elsewhere in neighborhood cities. The reason for this is due to competitive salaries. There are residents mainly near the parks that have built a communicative relationship with some of the park staff. We're dealing with graffiti, parks, and playground safety. The fact that our public works staff is ready and resilient when that phone call comes into the corporation yard, that fact adds to a level of satisfaction and security for the residents of the city. That fact is a hard fact that you cannot take for granted. You, the council for this city, are going to vote on a motion 5.2 tonight to help build a valuable work staff and help promote qualities that I mentioned above. With this compensation package, that will benefit you as a council, public works staff, and most important, the city, the residents of the city. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and the rest of the City Council. My name is Vincent Walker. I'm Vice President of the Westminster Municipal Employees Association. I'm here tonight to represent the members of our association who could not be here and extend gratitude on 5.2. First and foremost, on behalf of our members, we would like to tell you, thank you. We as WMEA members are proud to call Westminster our second home. And I say home because we spend about 80% of our lives with each other, working here in the city. We as WME employees take pride in what we do. From cleaning parks, repairing streets, replacing signs, fixing water lines, repairing facilities, going out on calls as PD, and the list goes on. We want to continue to make our council shine. And we want to make this city a place where the community is proud to call home. We will be able to retain our current and future employees with this new contract. This will help the city keep and attract future employees in a current competitive market that includes water, parks, streets, facilities, police department, rec, and city hall. Now this could not have been accomplished with the city as a whole, with just us, but the city as a whole. I feel and know this was a collective collaboration between management and WMEA, doing what is best for the city. I want to thank our city manager for believing in her facilities, city hall, PD, and public works teams. Without her, the team of HR, and the public works director, this would not be possible. Thank you again.
Can I start with, it's good to see all of you in person. In the last 2 years, it's the whole Zoom. I know you've heard my voice, but this is me. So good evening, council members, officers, directors, ladies, gentlemen. My name is Dan Naker. First time I spoke in front of you, I didn't need these. Now I do. So, here we go. My name is Dan Naker. I'm the president of WMEA. They say it takes a village. I've been part of this village for almost 10 years now. And in the big picture of things, it's not that long. But I did grow up right down the street. I used to play football. I used to wrestle. I used to attend MUN conferences at Westminster High School. I work on vehicles for the city. I guess you could say I like to repair broken things. As president of WMEA, I've had the privilege of working with some amazing individuals. I've also experienced the sadness of watching them leave. These mentors, as I like to call them, give Westminster its character. They defined who we are as a city and lifted us to be a village. A few years ago, I spoke up. You remember. I said, we need Westminster not to be a pass-through city. We need a city people come to see, come to play, come to worship, come to enjoy our culture. It still holds true today. I still believe this is the way and this is who we are. I believe in this town, this city, this village.
A mentor is someone who has unparalleled knowledge, someone we learn from, someone who guides us, someone who has made the mistakes so we don't have to. Currently, we lose mentors on a daily basis. These people, they train new employees. These are the people who know how to treat Westminster water. They know how to de-escalate a violent situation. They know how to help a homeless man. Some of them even know how to maintain a Ford Explorer. It's not such a nightmare. Some of them help a kid get through his first flu vaccine. It takes a village. Part of our issue is we don't take care of the people taking care of us. So they leave. We try so hard to find that right person. We go through so many checks and balances. We have to get the right one. And when we finally do, when we find that perfect person, we do nothing to keep them. We had a kid, we had a young man, Cornelius. You guys have to know him. He came to us through the Police Explorer program. I want to say he was Police Volunteer Staff of the Year at some point. He attended the Police Academy. He flew through our police training program. He was destined, it seemed to me at least, to be one of the best. And then he left. Because the gap was too much. He absolutely loved it here. From my view, albeit jaded, he loved being a Westminster police officer. But the gap was too much. So we trained a really good one, and we gave him to Newport Beach. And there's a number of very similar stories where Westminster employees couldn't weather the gap. They didn't see a plan, and we lost them. It takes a village. I would like to thank the people who saw the issues and said, let's get this fixed. Starting with you guys, starting with council. Without your guidance and your efforts behind the scenes, we could not have come up with solutions. Not for one group, but the city, the whole city. The city manager and her staff, your tireless efforts show that you want to retain quality staff, mentors, if you will. The negotiation teams from both sides. Your ideas, your out-of-the-box thinking, your let's get this figured out, saved the city many days of frustration and heartache. Thank you all. I'd also like to thank our residents. Thank you for being patient with us as we try to replace lost staff to address city issues. We are here for you. We want to help you.
Your time is expired.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Carmen.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I would like to start out by thanking the HR Director, Jody Greiner, Finance Director, Aaron Bax, WMEA President, Dan Napier, and the rest of the city staff for their diligent work on this proposal. Passing this revised MOU means so much to the members of the Westminster Police Officers Association and their families. These same members risk their lives on a daily basis for the safety of our community. This is going to greatly help with our working conditions, including but not limited to our efforts in retention and competitive recruitment, as well as minimizing patrol mandates due to staffing shortages. As you know, we have not had any increases over the past few years despite the drastic rise in inflation. Our members have still provided the same quality service our community has come to know, respect, and deserves. Mayor and Council, I appreciate your consideration in this matter, and our membership firmly believes all of you will pass this without reservation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Camilla Overby, President of Westminster. First item, please consider this my official request to fly the Pride flag here at City Hall for the month of June, aka Pride Month. The city does not have a flag flying policy, and there's no official way for the request to be made, so I'm doing it now. And before Councilmember Hall makes the argument of, if we do it for one, we have to do it for them all, like she did last year, know this. The city of Boston just tried that argument and lost. Shirtlift v. Boston was decided by SCOTUS 9-0. I'll provide the flag, you provide the pole. Item 3.6, the policy presented falls incredibly short of being transparent and undermines the spirit of the law. Transparency in the welfare of the community is at the heart of AB 481. Military items 3, 4, and 6 listed in the PD's policy list riot and crowd control under authorized use or purpose. AB 48 clearly states, except as otherwise provided in subdivision B, kinetic energy projectiles and chemical agents shall not be used by any law enforcement agency to disperse any assembly, protest, or demonstration. Crowds are not riots. Laws are laws, and you don't get to bend them as necessary to aid bad actors in getting away with violence against the public. AB 48 also says that you need to identify persons engaged in violent acts, and the kinetic and chemical weapons are only to be aimed at those individuals. Projectiles shall not be aimed indiscriminately into a crowd or group of persons. I would like to see more emphasis regarding these issues in your policy. Rules of engagement should not be vague. They should be crystal clear. Additionally, you direct people to the policy handbook. The goal and purpose of this bill was to bring about transparency, not send the public on a wild goose chase to see when and what military weapons can and will be used against them. AB 481 requires that the quantity possessed be disclosed. The department has failed to do so. You've given a number not to be exceeded. With all due respect, I don't give a damn about how many you'd like to have. I have a legal right to know how many you have on hand right now. AB 481 also requires approval for additional purchases of this equipment. If we don't know how many you currently have, how do we know you haven't exceeded your proposed maximum? These items are purchased with tax dollars. They belong to us. Account for them. I have specifically and intentionally focused on military equipment labeled for riots and crowd control. 50% of this country is on the verge of losing fundamental rights to their bodies and privacy. We aren't going down without a fight. So when I and others take to the streets exercising our First Amendment right to peacefully protest, I don't want to be shot at with less lethals again because the department had unclear policies and procedures that skirted the law. I'm probably one of few, if not the only person in this room that's ever lived through the trauma of being fired at and hit by less lethals that left my body riddled with cuts and bruises for days. If it were up to me, you wouldn't have any or the majority of the items on this list. I personally believe that allocating funds to help the community at large is a much more effective way to combat crime. When community needs are met, crime inherently goes down. AB 48 and 481 also require a complaint process. The PD has chosen their standard complaint process, which is fine. However, I would suggest putting a tab on your homepage for complaints. Additionally, I ask you this: how is the public at large supposed to trust that a fair and just investigation will be concluded when everything is done in-house behind closed doors with no oversight from the community? If and when issues are sent out to be investigated, we send them to the DA Todd Spitzer's office, who's currently endorsed by the Westminster Police Officers Association. Legal or not, it has a pay-to-play vibe, falls incredibly short of fair or just, and definitely leaves an impression of impropriety. It's no secret that over the years, the relationship between PDs and communities has become increasingly strained. Trust is earned. Trust is not built in secrecy. When there's a lack of transparency, you aren't asking for trust, you're asking for blind faith, and frankly, I don't have that. Over and over, we've seen officers above reproach for their actions. Militarizing them only makes it worse. Despite the claim that this equipment makes communities safer, research has consistently shown it does not. In fact, it causes more harm, and communities of color are adversely affected at alarming rates. I ask for this council to request revisions to item 3.6 so as to be more transparent, truthful, forthcoming, and more aligned with the letter and spirit of the law. Bring it back to the next council meeting. The law is clear and the public has a right to know. The PD wants trust. We want and deserve transparency and accountability. And for the last 9 seconds, I ask for a moment of silence due to the Department of Interior's report that came out today regarding the 53 burial sites at residential schools.
Next speaker is Deborah Marisco.
asked to do 2 ride-alongs. I did one in December of 2019, and that one we had one arrest that evening. We were doing a backup to Paco and Officer Travis. That misdemeanor became a felony when we got into the jail. I went this Saturday night, and the events that I'm going to give you are not in order of the events of the end. I've kind of put them together as to make it a little bit easier. I only got about 3.5 hours because the officer that I was with had an earlier shift. So hopefully I can get to go again. So the first instance that I'm going to talk about was at Stater Brothers on Newland and Westminster. We had a gentleman shopping with a machete in his backpack and had multiple calls from citizens and from the store manager. So we had 4 police officers and a sergeant, I believe, that went to discuss things with him and get him to leave. He probably was homeless. He did get on his skateboard and took off with his, with his purchases, but that was pretty scary. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the homeless. There is a man probably in his 50s, and I'm going to call him Newland Michael. He has found a house on Newland halfway between Trask and Westminster that he is using as his personal restroom. So we got a call for that. We went to that. He pretended to have an epileptic seizure. The officer was familiar with him. He knew his name was Michael. Was able to see that he had not had a seizure. Were able to get him up and on his way. The reason I'm bringing that up is because yesterday I was walking my dogs about 11:30 in the morning, and there he is again. Same spot, same thing. I'm a little bit afraid to walk the streets with my dogs. I can't get a police escort, but it shouldn't be like that. I've said it shouldn't be like that. We had another instance with another homeless gentleman that the officer I was with had arrested him prior for slashing tires in the Little Saigon Shopping Center. He was spent a couple days in jail, and then he was released and he out again. He's homeless. And then we had another instance at the Chevron on Beach and McFadden, a lady that was doing some shoplifting. They actually had their own private patrol with an armed guard who was there. We had 3 officers that went to that location and also a supervisor. It probably took about 20 minutes to get that lady to go away. She was higher than a kite. So that was our homeless situation that we had. The officer that I was with is Vietnamese, so he did a translation for a lady that didn't understand that the streets belong to citizens and they can park in front of her house. And so she's pounding on cars that had parked in front of her house, so we went and did that. Did a few miscellaneous traffic stops. The thing that got me more than anything, because I know I'm aware that we have slab houses here in Westminster, but I had no idea how many in a small geographic area of where this officer was supposed to patrol. I quit counting at 6. We met up other officers, and everybody was fabulous, all the people that I had interaction with. We have so much crime in this city that is underground that it is phenomenal, and we need to do something about it. I am here to support our police department. The last thing that I did was we had a noise complaint for a birthday party. They had a jumper in the back of that house, and it was a kid's party. It was 11 o'clock at night. We went. They were very nice. 3 officers for that. We need to keep the tax. We need to be able to allow the citizens to vote on keeping the tax. And if you're not willing to allow us to do that, it's just a different way of saying defund the police.
nhCươ.
My name is Beverly Nixon. I am a part of WMEA, and I have been with the city for 17 years. My title is accounting assistant, and I am building a lab with the customer, water customer on phone and in person. And I am always find a way to help customer whatever they need. And the important thing is I am speak Vietnamese. So many of the Vietnamese customers ask the question and ask to talk to Vietnamese employee. And it's fortunate that I am right now is only one speaks Vietnamese in the water department. Because my title is accounting assistant, so I help a lot with the water billing and to prepare to send out the bill for the customer. And up to now, I am very appreciate that in the year 2012, the mayor and all the council member assist me in saving my position. And up to now, I am continue to work well for the city of Westminster, and for the upcoming years with the situation that the tax. And I would like to ask the mayor and the council member, please consider the tax allow all the citizens to be allowed to for their to vote on their own. And I appreciate what you concern, and hopefully from now on and continue many years to serve the resident and all. Thank you.
Gillespie, please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Travis Gillespie, and I am one of 23 employees of your water department, under the Public Works Division, and also the current secretary of the Westminster Municipal Employees Association. I have been employed here for 5 years now, and it has been the best 5 years of my life. I am thankful to be part of a team that passionately maintains your water system and consistently provides the citizens of Westminster with clean and reliable drinking water. We have worked tirelessly and seemingly unnoticed throughout the pandemic, maintaining this city's parks, streets, and water system. Over the past 5 years, we have lost 10 valuable team members in the water department to other organizations because of competitive salaries. We in the water department would like to thank you for pushing this new contract forward on Measure 5.2. Without it, we will see the city's parks, streets, facilities, and water system change drastically for the worse if we cannot retain valuable and passionate team members. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you council for your time and consideration.
Good evening, everyone.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người.
Before I start my speech in Vietnamese, I'd like to apologize to the non-Vietnamese speaking, especially Vice Mayor Manzo.
Trước khi tôi nói tiếng Việt, phát biểu bằng tiếng Việt đó, tôi xin lỗi những cái người mà không nói tiếng Việt được, đặc biệt là Phó Thị trưởng Manzo.
I think the interim city manager already explained to me, this is about, I'm supposed to speak to the council not address the residents.
Thì như quyền tổng giám đốc của thành phố nói đó, đáng lẽ là tôi phải phát biểu nói cho những người nghị viên và thị trưởng nghe, thay vì những cái người cư dân ở đây.
But I think between my speaking English ability and the mayor's ability to understand comprehensively, I think it's better that I speak to him in Vietnamese.
Thì về vấn đề mà khả năng nói tiếng Anh của tôi cũng như là vấn đề hiểu của thị trưởng, do đó tôi muốn phát biểu bằng tiếng Việt.
Tôi xin được tiếp tục dẫn chứng trưng ra những bằng cứ để chứng minh rằng những lời tố cáo của tôi về ông thị trưởng.
I would like to continue with the presentations of my evidence regarding Mayor Ta.
Về việc ông toa rập với những thành phần bất hảo, côn đồ, lưu manh để chụp mũ và vu khống truyền thông báo chí độc lập.
Regarding or about the fact that he conspired with undesirable element thugs to oppress independent press and media,
đàn áp những tiếng nói đối lập,
to oppress dissenting voice.
Là sự thật 100%, tôi không hề bịa đặt vu oan cho ông.
This is 100% true. I'm not falsely accusing you.
Giáng sinh 2019, khi ông xách động lôi kéo một số được gọi là tăng ni.
So back in Christmas or 2019, you incited a group of the so-called nuns and monks
từ những tiểu bang hoặc thành phố khác về Westminster để biểu dương lực lượng bảo vệ ghế thị trưởng của ông.
From other cities and states to Westminster here to protect to show as a show of force to protect your seat as mayor.
Dưới chiêu bài tử thủ an lộc, ông vu khống cho tất cả những ai dám lên tiếng chỉ trích phê bình ông.
Invoking the An Lộc last stand to attack and criticize people who dare to attack people who dare to criticize you.
Tất cả những ai dám lên tiếng chỉ trích phê bình ông là tay sai của cộng sản.
So according to you, all those people who dare to speak up and to criticize you, they are latchkey of the communists.
Ông và đàn em của ông đã sử dụng truyền thông Việt ngữ vô đạo đức để tuyên truyền.
You and your underling have utilized those unethical Vietnamese media to spread your propaganda.
Tuyên truyền rằng những cư dân như tôi còn nguy hiểm hơn Việt Cộng.
And your propaganda is that dangerous residents like myself are worse than the communists.
Trong cuộc biểu tình, đám đông fan cuồng của ông đã chương biểu ngữ diệt Tàu Cộng rồi mới diệt Việt Cộng.
So in that instance where you have your people took to the street, you have the slogan that say, let's destroy
Communist China.
Let's destroy Communist China, and then we will destroy the
Vietnamese communists.
The Vietnamese communists?
Yes.
I don't think.
Hòa thượng Thích Thông Lai, vị lãnh đạo tinh thần của đám đông cuồng loạn này đã phán rằng
Monk Thích Thông Lai, the spiritual leader of this crowd, said this.
Bọn Việt gian tay sai, mà ngay sau đó ông thị trưởng Chí Tạ và nghị viên Charlie Nguyễn Mạnh Trí đã gián tiếp đồng ý với lời hô hào của cáo buộc của Trần Nhật Phong vu khống tôi là VC Việt Cộng.
He said that Monk said that these traitor of Vietnam, and after that, Mayor Ta, as well as Council Member Charlie Nguyen, have indirectly agreed with these slogans and these accusations by Trần Nhật Phong.
Vu khống cho tôi là Việt Cộng tay sai, cộng sản.
Labeling me as a latchkey of the communists.
đã dám đánh phá ông và quấy rối cộng đồng.
and that I have attacked him and tried to stir up trouble in the community.
Sau đó họ xúc động đám đông bu vào khủng bố và tấn công tôi.
And after that, they incite the crowd to surround and then attack me.
Hai ông điềm nhiên vui vẻ thích thú đứng xem.
And the two of you were acting as if nothing happened and you were there just enjoying it.
Thích thú đứng xem tôi và cụ nhà báo lão thành Nguyễn Mạnh Cường bị đám đông bao vây hành hung mà không hề lên tiếng.
You were enjoying it. You saw that the crowd were attacking me and this season's newspaper person, Cư Nguyê, and you did not do anything to stop that.
Mà không hề lên tiếng can thiệp, nếu không nói là hạ hê và vui mừng.
You did not speak up. You did not intervene to stop it. Instead, you were gloating.
Trước đây, ông tung tin fake news tuyên truyền rằng nghị viên tài đỗ muốn đổi tên thành phố Westminster thành Hồ Chí Minh City.
You have previously spread fake news claiming that City Council member Tai Do want to change the name of the city of Westminster to Ho Chi Minh City.
Ông tiếp tục sử dụng Ngô Kỷ và YouTuber Nam Quang để vu khống phu quân của nghị viên Kimberly Hồ là tàu cộng.
And you continue to employ or utilize YouTuber Nam Quang and also Ngô Kỷ to accuse City Council member Kimberly Ho's husband as a communist Chinese.
Mới đây, Ngô Kỷ và Nam Quang lại tiếp tục bịa đặt vu khống phụ thân của vợ nghị viên Thách Bùi là đại tá cộng sản.
And recently, Ngô Kỷ, Ngô and YouTuber Nam Quang continue to falsely accuse the father-in-law of City Council member Ted Bùi of the city of Phan Valley as a high-ranking member of the Communist Vietnam.
Trong buổi họp lần trước, ông cấm không cho tôi phát biểu bằng tiếng Việt.
So in the previous meeting, City Council meeting, you prohibit me from addressing the council in Vietnamese.
Vì ông cho rằng tôi nói được tiếng Anh.
Because you claimed that I could speak English.
Sau khi bị nghị viên tài đỗ dạy dỗ cho ông phải tôn trọng quyền công dân của tôi.
And after you were lecturing by council member Tai Do to respect my right as a citizen and resident,
thì ông lại chối, bảo rằng ông không cấm tôi phát biểu bằng tiếng Việt.
And you then deny that you did not try to prohibit me from addressing the council in Vietnamese.
Mà chỉ bất bình vì tôi đã lạm dụng kẽ hở của pháp luật để phát biểu đến 15 phút trong lần họp trước đây.
You said that you were just unhappy because I was
lợi dụng kẽ hở của pháp luật.
I was taking advantage of a legal loophole to address the council that lasts for 15 minutes.
Đây là một lời nói láo bịa đặt hoàn toàn.
This is a lie. This is fabrication.
Tôi đã chứng minh cho mọi người thấy ông là một người nói láo.
I have proved to everyone that you are a liar.
Và đã sử dụng côn đồ lưu manh để đàn áp tiếng nói đối lập những người như tôi.
And that you have utilized thugs to oppress people who try to dare to raise up their voice like I do.
Okay, thank you.
And so, thank you.
No, I'll speak English. I'm not attacking you personally. I'm just pointing out your shortcomings, unethical or illegal acts, in hope that we will have a better mayor, hopefully a more transparent, democratic, professional, if not moral, moral council that we all deserve in the future. Please vote yes on Measure C. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Lynch.
Good evening,
terrible Terry Reigns Westminster. I attended the Conchi Monument Committee meeting on Monday. What a cluster FU blank day that was. But on Tuesday, I had the pleasure of riding along with our great police department's homeless liaison team. Vice Mayor Manzo also rode along for a while, as did our fearless leaders, Christina and Adolfo. Mayor Ta showed up for a minute. Many had been working since 4 a.m. taking part in a slap house raid, which yielded 17 arrests. For every unhoused person you see on major streets or in our parks, there are 20 more you don't see, tucked away in areas not visible to the public. CityNet's homeless census is grossly unstated. CityNet was not there yesterday, but officers from Garden Road PD and CHP were. Every unhoused person has a story, and I teared up listening to them. I think my United to End Homelessness t-shirt made them comfortable sharing with me. Thank you, Chief Lene, Commander McCormick, and Homeless Liaison Officer Perez for this great opportunity, and I hope you got some sleep last night. Speaking of our great police department and city staff, I support item 5.2, the MOUs and compensation plans for our city employees, including a one-time 10% salary increase effective July 2nd, which is actually 3% for fiscal year 21, 3% for fiscal year 22, and 4% for fiscal 23, combined into one. Positions at or above the median will not give the FY21 or 22 increases. Some think we shouldn't give raises because of the city's looming financial crisis, but that is not the employees' fault, it's this council's fault. The chief nailed it at the last meeting. Employees can go work elsewhere and make more money and do less work. If only 4 council members had had the balls to put a tax measure on the 2020 ballot, it would have likely passed and we would not be in this dire situation. For all the crap employees have been put through recently, and knowing many will lose their jobs because of this council's asinine politics and Mayor Ta forcing a major SS sunset date, they deserve this raise. Speaking of Mayor Ta, he is on Vietnamese media constantly promoting his run for assembly and opposing Measure C, which will eliminate the elected mayor's seat and create 5 council districts. The No on C signs say, protect your right to vote, in Vietnamese only. That is really rich coming from you and your supporters, Mayor Ta, considering you are not protecting our right to vote on extending the tax measure. Their arguments against the measure are only in Vietnamese and are filled with the usual propaganda, BS, and fake news that they are famous for. Speaking of fake news, Rose Bowie, wife of AD70 candidate Ted Bowie, who is running against Mayor Ta and Councilwoman Ho, filed a defamation lawsuit against fake news kingpins, and fervent Ta supporters, Kino and Nam Quan Nguyen. The recent fake news resolution was fueled by those 2 characters. Kino has been on Vietnamese media crying literally about this lawsuit and how angry he is that Mayor Ta, whom he worships, betrayed their community by approving the Tonyland Park renaming. So much drama. Freedom of speech does not include making false statements that harm the reputation of others. That's defamation. And think that is what these 2 characters do on a regular basis. I really hope Mrs. Bowie prevails in this case. Speaking of freedom of speech, Mayor Ta is violating our First Amendment rights by blocking or not allowing comments from all constituents on his official new social media pages. Accordingly, I sent a formal complaint to the mayor, city attorney, and city manager on May 1st, directing them to review U.S. Court of Appeals 4th Circuit decision in case 17-2002, Davison versus Randall, and take immediate corrective action. Also related to freedom of speech, council spent 40 minutes at the last meeting to debate one speaker's rights to address council in 2 languages, which led to item 6.1 tonight. The interpretation of Government Code 549-54-3B2 in the staff report is ambiguous. The current procedure of timing only the speaker's comments in their chosen language and not the interpreter's time is more fair than the statute. But the city attorney must provide a definitive opinion tonight as to whether or not the city is at risk by continuing this policy. I do not support speakers using their 5 minutes to speak in 2 languages without interpretation, though, because they might not say the same thing. All comments must ultimately be in English so the entire council staff and the public can understand them. Whatever the policy is, rest assured, Mayor Ta won't enforce it fairly. Speaking of Mayor Ta and fake news again, Ta's 15-minute promotional video, steadfast, one way, Mayor Ta's journey to fight for the community, and other campaign messages are hilarious and pathetic, filled with the usual fake news and political propaganda. Our homeless problem is better? BS. Ta led the effort to sue Newsom and stop the sanctuary state policy, and he fought those Democrats and won. BS. In 2018, it was a federal DOJ lawsuit against California when Brown was governor, not Newsom, and it was Margie Rice, not Tree Ta, who brought it before the council to consider joining other cities and supported the federal lawsuit, or one filed by Huntington Beach. Both cases were ultimately lost. Remember, everyone, don't vote for Ta or Ho for assembly. Vote yes on Measure C, and council, let us vote on the tax measure. Let us vote. Let us vote.
Mark Lawrence, please come forward.
Lawrence, Westminster. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Bettenhausen, Chief, Ms. Cordell, city clerks. Wow. I don't know what to say following that. However, I did go to the Quang Tri Monument Committee meeting on Monday. I've been to all of them except one. The abject disrespect, very dismissive, very disingenuous. The way the tone was set that night, the vice chair came in, took his seat. We went to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I removed my hat. The vice chair did not. Nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. This is America. This is America. And as you heard before, I'm an immigrant. Born in England, I have dual citizenship, but my father, my late father, he would never allow us to disrespect the flag. Not now, not ever. And for that to happen, outrageous. And then for that monument not to have the explicit seals and symbols of the United States Armed Forces, except they said we're going to put it on the backside. Well, in England, that's not a good term. Your backside is equivalent to your rear end. Once again, not a good thing. And that equates to nothing but a pet peeve project. Nobody wants this monument in the park. Those parks are for playing, having a good time. And just like what was reiterated by Mr. Harrison and Mr. Gomez, who sat here at that meeting, patiently waiting, and yet they were outvoted time after time after time. Once again, utter disrespect for our country. Disrespect. That doesn't go over well. Not at all. So I hope they realize that they're not going to get any support from someone like me. Had it be done the right way, they would have the support of the community. But they decided on their own to violations of the Brown Act numerous times. And then you have these AB 1, 2, 3, 4 violations. I hope you look into that, Mr. Bettenhausen. I really do. Because if not, I will write a letter to the FPPC about this. This is wrong. And you know me you've known me a long time. You know I will write that letter. You know it. But to have that happen, once more pet peeve projects. Folks, I'm not going to say anything about the MOUs. I have my personal feelings about that, but when 2016 was put into effect, the Measure SS, we were told we weren't going to have any of this. We were going to knuckle down and stick to the basics. And we simply have not. We simply have not. A lot of taxpayer money has been shoveled out the back door quicker than you can say backside. And I just don't understand how the town is going to get through this financial crisis. Our water rates have been raised. We now have a hearing coming up at Midway City Sanitation District where they're going to try to raise the sewer fees. And what's coming down from Washington, and what's coming down from Sacramento. The burden on the taxpayers is heavy. Now, I used to be an LA County Sheriff's Deputy. I understand how they work. I understand how the cities do business, especially with the LA County Sheriff's Department because they have contract cities. Now, I have nothing personally against the police department, and some of you know what I've been through, but this is not about a personal vendetta with the police department. So I hope they do survive. I hope our fiscal house is in order. I really do, because I love my city. My mom and dad bought their house March 1st of 1971.
That's how long we've been associated with this town. So please, think about what you're doing. Think about your vote and how it affects us all. Whether it be good, whether it be bad. But please listen to the voters that put you up there, that voted for you, that believed in you. Thank you.
Next speaker is TK. Please come forward.
I'm going to speak about the agenda item 3.6, militarizing the police. I don't know how anyone really thinks this is a really good idea at all. When you look at facts that police officers already work with the bias of someone just based on their skin color. There have been so many tragic instances where people have lost their lives because police officers are taught, don't hesitate, and they're taught for kill shots. So now, we want to dress them up as soldiers that fight in combat. That whole mindset of a soldier now in hands of police officers that protect us. Police don't keep us safe. They come after. And when they come ready to shoot. There have been too many people who have lost their lives. There's no accountability. What I mean about accountability is this. When an officer perceives a threat, that's when the shots fire. And that perception is just based on a person's color of their skin. I've seen over and over, time and time, that does not happen to a non-white person. It's time that things will change. It needs to change. And militarizing police officers is not it. Many times going out on the protest against police brutality, we have children, babies still suckling their mom's teat. We have people that are in wheelchairs. There is no need to militarize police officers against civilians. There's no need for it. How about better training and services for people in the community? We know that marginalized communities are suffering from lack of a lot of things. We'll start with a few. There's a huge wealth gap. We know that that's there. We know also that systematic racism is real. If you give people what they need, there is no need for other violence. There'll be no need for policing. The reality is that when you take care of a person's basic human needs, there won't be need for a whole lot of other wrongdoings, misdoings. A lot of times, you're looking at crooked cops too. There's greed. This will only continue to give more power to corruption, to greed, to murderous behaviors, and people ending their lives, or people losing their lives. There's no transparency, there's no accountability. What about qualified immunity? When will we have police officers accountable for their actions? if something happens on their watch, a person lives their life, they go home, they sit and they still get their money, their kids still go to college, they still get their pensions, they even get transferred to another department. And the behavior just keeps going on and on. But anybody else in their jobs, if you had that behavior, you would not be allowed to continue your behavior. Doctors, nurses, teachers. But yet a police officer can. And now you want to give them military weapons? No, thank you. Black Lives Matter.
Is there anyone else in the community wishing to speak on this item during the conversation?
Cho hỏi là còn có ý nào trong có cái phát biểu được không?
We do have a few people with their hands raised on Zoom, Mayor, and the first person is Zach Tran. You may begin speaking.
Hello.
Yes, please begin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 47 years ago, around this time, Saigon, a lovely capital of South Vietnam, was in the darkest time of our history. The wound will never heal. In that emotional state, I would like to thank the city of Westminster for organizing the commemoration of the fall of Saigon and a week of flying the flags at half-staff to mourn the lost country. Next issue I want to address the Council is the fact that on April 19, Council member Kimberly Ho came to a Fountain Valley Council meeting to campaign for herself while verbally attacked on a city project, and a Fountain Valley Council member who also runs for State Assembly as well. She was shameless for doing so. She also bragged about her transparency, saying she will clean up Sacramento. The Vietnamese community here knows all about her lies on some YouTubes and on her private channel. Our memory is still fresh the night Kimberly Ho screamed and yelled at a college in Vietnamese during a Westminster Council meeting, bad enough that she had to be muted. Is that person clean enough to clean up others? The answer belongs to the City Council here and the constituents of the Assembly District 70. Another issue I want to bring up tonight is Kai Dao, who came to speak in the last two meetings, April 13 and 27, and also tonight I saw him speaking with the same intention. He clearly had the intention to personally attack on Mayor Chita, and none of the council members ever stopped him for doing so. And especially, I want to make the question with Council Member Tai Do. You protect him to speak in Vietnamese. Then I want to say next. And you don't see that he personal attack on Mayor Chita. And while Council Member Tai Do many times stopped us for, and he said that we personal attack someone, and none of the other council members agree with him. So shame on him. So not stopping Tai Do for attacking, personal attacking Mayor Chita. And I think it's not fair. But the most important issue I want to bring up is the fact that Khai Dao, who can speak English fluently, but use interpreter in those meetings. First, I want to thank Westminster taxpayer for providing an interpreter for those who cannot speak English to the council. But Khai Dao cannot abuse this generosity. The oral communication is for residents to address their concerns, their opinions to the council, not to speak to the Vietnamese community as Khai Dao claimed. Shame on him, and shame on council member Do for protecting him to speak Vietnamese while he can speak English. So I ask all the Westminster taxpayers stand up for this. You don't pay for those people who can speak English and speak Vietnamese and abuse your generosity for someone who doesn't deserve it. Thank you for listening and good night.
Next speaker on Zoom is Amy Walsh. You may begin.
Hi. A couple things that I wanted to speak on tonight. One of which is, I guess I'll preface this with, in regards to the contracts, the union contracts on the agenda tonight. First off, let me say that I believe that everyone that works for the city, in my humble opinion, deserves a lot more of a raise than, what is in that contract. I'm just saying. However, let me also say that when we are on the brink of bankruptcy, I'm not sure that doing this at this exact moment is what's best. And I hate to say that because these people really, really deserve this. I'm glad, I was hoping that I would hear more from the unions tonight in regards to the, the putting the measure on the ballot and that kind of thing. So I am glad for the woman, I can't recall her name now, that did come up and speak, and she's, she works for the city, and that warmed my heart because that showed me that, one, if not more, of our city workers, understand that if, it's great to get these raises, but if it can't be sustained on a year-to-year basis, if we're going to be in the red for the next 2 years, let's say, we can't hold up to those raises. So that's my only concern. So I would hope that the union members and the other city workers come forward and kind of let their management know and let their union boards know that, they are thankful for this raise, but in all seriousness, this measure needs to be put on the ballot, or else it's just going to go away and people will get laid off. So the next thing that I would like to do, which I know Camilla had tried to do it earlier with what little time she had left, I would just like to ask the council take a moment of silence tonight to remember, honor, and respect the more than 500 children who were discovered on burial sites at residential schools today. And given that these schools operated for more than 150 years, that number is expected to grow to thousands, if not tens of thousands. Given all the atrocities inflicted upon Indigenous people, the least we can do is take a moment and honor them. Personal note, my family can only go back to the 1800s when it comes to our family history, and then it's like we disappear. So yes, we have a lot going on in the city, but it kind of makes you put some things in perspective. So I'd really appreciate it if at some point tonight, council could take a moment of silence. Thank you. That's all.
At this time, if anyone else wishes to speak via Zoom, please raise your hand at this time.
Lúc này nếu có quý vị nào đang theo dõi qua hệ thống mạng tin thì do muốn đọc được thì quý vị có thể lên thì chúng tôi biết quý vị có thể giơ tay lên bằng cách chạm vào cái biểu tượng của một tay của quý vị.
Mayor, no one else has raised their hand. That concludes our communication.
All right, with that, I close all communication. Next, we have consent calendar. All matter is under the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by a single motion, followed by roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Unless members of the council or staff request that specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action or discussion. Move to approve. Second.
Ok, bây giờ là đã bắt đầu hết phần phát biểu rồi, mình sẽ tắt máy nha.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ai xui miệt ấy ghé về thăm, bún cá phở quyên vẫn mãi thèm. Hầm rục xương cá ngọt liệm, chả cá vàng tươi ngon giòn, nước lèo bốc khói thơm ngát, tương hành chanh ớt. Chị mời em ăn tô bún cá chứa chan tình người.
Xin mời quý vị đến với phở quyên, ăn một lần lại muốn ăn thêm. Phở quyên 714 896 0928 896 0928.